Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey, and if you are new around here, I am a 5th year homeschooling mom to 3 kiddos ages 10, 6, and 1. And today I want to take you inside a history guide that is Charlotte Mason inspired. So today we are going to be talking all about Simple Studies history. So if you are not familiar with Simple Studies, it is a Charlotte Mason inspired curriculum, and I use the word curriculum very loosely because you are not going to find any textbooks or worksheets or busy work in this guide. So this is going to include lots of living books, living chapter books, living picture books. It's going to give guides for oral and written narration, prompts for your book of centuries and book of mottos. It's got some mapping and some coloring, and it just seems really neat. I could not find a ton of information on this as far as like a YouTube video or a blog post or anything like that goes, and so I just went ahead and purchased it. So we are going to be using this for a couple of our units that we have planned for the rest of the year, and then I have something else in mind next year for our history. So if you are interested in learning more about this, let's go ahead and take a peek inside. All right, so this is the Simple Studies America. It is a living history guide for K through 6 students. And so let's just talk about the cost really quickly. So you get this off of their website, the PDF, for $10. It was actually my first order with Simple Studies, so I was able to get 10% off. So if you have never ordered with them before and you do end up ordering with them, make sure that you use that coupon code. I am not affiliated with them in any way. When I was looking at this curriculum, I could not find anybody talking about this at all, so I wanted to make a video and share with you guys a little bit inside of it and, you know, all of that. So this is really nice because the only thing that is color is the cover. So if you were printing this at home, it actually probably wouldn't cost too much. I was ordering quite a few things, so I just went ahead and got this printed. I was able to get it all printed for about, like, I think $4. So the total cost of everything, I paid less than $20 for everything that I needed. So this is the cover, and I'm going to show you a little bit on the inside. So again, you could just get this bound, or you could, you know, get it hole punched and keep it in a binder. I've just been keeping it in sheet protectors in a binder. They have the introduction. It just talks a little bit about Charlotte Mason and her philosophies, a little bit about Simple Studies as a company, and then a little bit about William J. Bennett, who is the author of the main text source that you're going to be using. It gives a suggested schedule for the year. It has 24 lessons, and it suggests 1 or 2 lessons per week. Okay, so the materials that you need for the entire study is going to be the Children's Book of America by William J. Bennett, which is right here. So my library did not have this book. They did have the audio book on Hoopla. So I actually listened to the first couple of chapters, and my husband and I loved it. And so I just decided to go ahead and buy it. It has beautiful pictures. And the story is very much a living book. The stories are just wonderful. So there's that. I got that on eBay for about $5 or $6, so very affordable. You're also going to need the coloring pages, which she includes here. You're going to need a personal history notebook or loose leaf paper for older students for each lesson. You also need colored pencils, or, you know, just something to color with, a computer or device for listening to songs and research, and then maps, which she also includes as well. She also has a picture book list. She includes a family tree printable. She has Poems of America, which are right here. This isn't a poem, obviously. This is the preamble to the Constitution, but they are in here, and I'm gonna go over those in a minute. And then a book of centuries. So this is basically, if you are doing the Charlotte Mason way of homeschool, a book of centuries is basically a timeline. So, you know, for older students, I think it's recommended for grades like 4th, maybe 5th and up. They have a book of centuries, and then every year that they do history, they add to it so that by the time they're finished with school, they have a big, beautiful book of everything that they've learned. She also gives mother culture recommendations for American history. And then this is an excerpt from Charlotte Mason Volume 3 talking about what mother culture is. And so it's just got a couple of books for that. This has the American History Picture Book List by lesson. So there's lots of really good books in here. I don't want to give away their whole book list, but a lot of these books are very much living books. Some of them were hard for me to get at the library. So then there's just a general history book, picture list. There's an older students chapter books list. So this is going to be more for your 4th, 5th, 6th graders. Okay, then we get into the lessons. So I'm going to show you the lesson that we are working through. We are not doing this 1 or 2 per week. I was not sure about this. Like I said, I could not find any information anywhere about it other than what they had on their website. And so, honestly, I don't feel like they give you a ton of material to work with for more than 1 or 2 lessons a week, but we're kind of making it work. So this is one of the lessons. This is the first one. I'm going to show you the one we're working on, but this has lessons 1 through 24. Each of them is a sheet long. They tell you the materials that you need, give you instructions, optional instructions for older students, and the picture book list. So this is some of the additional information that you need. So we have the preamble to the Constitution. Then they have the different poems or songs in here. Again, I don't want to like show everything that they have in here, but it's a pretty good idea. There's some other American history information. So like some videos and movies, and then some games, which I do have a couple of these games I'm going to show you. They include different maps. So we have a United States map, one with the states. This is the family tree I mentioned earlier. And then, not sure what that's for. I'd have to figure that out. And then I pray you and your students were thoroughly blessed by this simple study. So that's what she included in there as well. And then we have the coloring pages. So each lesson has a different coloring page. So obviously, if you have more than 1 student, you're gonna need to print more than 1 copy. There's also review questions, and then there is a final review in there as well. Okay, so we are doing lesson 11, which is all about Abraham Lincoln. We actually live in Indiana, and Abraham Lincoln, for those who may not know, grew up in Indiana during his formative years. So my kids have been very interested learning about him and kind of hearing a lot of the places. Either they're located close by or they're within, like a couple of hours drive, and so that's very exciting. There's some other information I'll share with you here in a bit, but yeah, so we're kind of focused more on Abraham Lincoln in his earlier years, and then we're also going to do the Civil War study next. So again, this is probably enough information for maybe a week, and we're kind of stretching it out for 2 weeks. So the materials that you need are the Children's Book of America. So this is what I already showed, but the one that you're going to be doing is Abe Lincoln School Days, and my son was very interested in this. It talks about how Abraham Lincoln read Robinson Crusoe, which my son just so happened to be reading at the same exact time that we read this, and he was very excited about that. So again, just lots of really nice pictures, and it's told very living book style, where it's very much a story that your children will be very interested in hearing about. Okay, then we have the coloring pages, and this is the one, it is a stack of books because you are learning about Abraham Lincoln, going to school and all of that. Then you need colored pencils to color with. Picture books are down below, and the America the Beautiful 1911 version, which they have included. Then you're going to sing America the Beautiful and memorize it. Now, I just want to break this down if you are not familiar with the Charlotte Mason method. Basically, when you are going through a lesson, you are going to recall the information you learned last time. You're going to read the text, they're going to either orally or do written narrations. So for my kindergartner, oral, not even necessarily oral narration. I'll just kind of ask him a couple of questions to make sure that he understood everything that we read, and that's pretty much it. For my 4th grader, he's able to write a paragraph. So he writes a paragraph a week about our history lesson, and he writes a paragraph a week about our science lesson. So you do that, and then you will do either your timeline, or this talks about a book of mottos, and then it has something else for older students to do as well. But that is basically it. There's not a ton of worksheets and busy work and all of that, and that is a huge reason why we are switching to more of a Charlotte Mason method. But if you are not someone who is a Charlotte Mason homeschooler, you will probably not feel like this is enough, and that's okay. But if you are, you will probably think that this is efficient enough, or maybe even add in, you know, a little bit more living books and, you know, extend it kind of how we are. So if you were doing this in order, you would be recalling Johnny Appleseed that you learned last week. You read together chapter 11, Abe Lincoln's School Days, and then ask for an oral narration. Ask what they may already know about Abe Lincoln and let them color the coloring page. For older students in grades 4+, if they would like to start their own book of mottos, they can do that. So basically, I can link a video down below from Simply Charlotte Mason where she explains this. But a book of mottos is basically just kind of like a journal where you put all of your favorite quotes or Bible verses or things like that. So this is 4th grade is a good time to start that. And then you're gonna have the older students read the Declaration of Independence, and then they give you a link for that. And so I went ahead and printed that. And my 4th grader and I have just been going over this like a couple paragraphs at a time and just kind of explaining what it all means. And so I think that's really cool. I don't think that's ever really something I remember doing, especially probably not in 4th grade, but it's been really interesting. It's, you know, we talked about how all men are created equal, but in 1776, slavery was still a thing, and that's kind of leading up to Abraham Lincoln's presidency, and so there's that. Then we have picture books. So I could not get all of these in my library. I had 3 of these were at my library. One of them was checked out, and it will not be back in time, but that I need it. But I was able to get my hands on 2 of them. One of them was Abe Lincoln Crosses a Creek. And this one was kind of cool because it's told from the perspective of the author who, you know, is like talking to you. So it's also got his friend who's drawing the pictures and everything. My 4th grader is really into making books and art. And so he really enjoyed kind of seeing like a little behind the scenes, I guess you could say. But there's that. And then this actually is one of my favorite books that we have done. That my favorite like historical picture books. Honey, the Dog Who Saved Abe Lincoln. So in the other book, you learn about Abe Lincoln's friend Austin. Austin is also talked about in this book. They were friends when he grew up in Knob Creek, Kentucky. And basically Abe used to like to help wildlife, and he found a dog who was hurt and he nursed it back to health, and then eventually the dog helped him when he needed help. So it was so interesting. It's not a story I ever remember hearing about. It's just, the pictures are gorgeous. I just really love this book, like a lot. At the end, it actually has a timeline. And so they have the Kentucky years, the Indiana years, the Illinois years, and the DC years. So, and then it also talks about on the back, talking about a little bit of him growing up and his childhood best friend, Austin, which is who we learned about in the other book as well. So I really, really enjoyed this book. It was one of the books on the list. I also had one of the games it mentions in the back, the Civil War Professor Noggin game. We love these games, one of our favorites. So we have been working through this kind of before our Civil War unit. I also went to Simply Charlotte Mason's website and YouTube channel and found some living books that had to do with Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War time era. And this was one that was recommended. It is Abe Lincoln Log Cabin to White House. Actually, I planned on doing this as a read aloud, and I bought it off of Amazon for a few dollars. And then my kids, we found this at the library. It's Log Cabin in the Woods, a true story about a pioneer boy. This is not about Abe Lincoln, but this was written in 1832, kind of when Indiana was becoming a state. And so my kids have just been really excited about this book, as have I. It's really cool to read books about history of where you actually live, so you just can connect more that way. And so we have really been enjoying this for our read aloud. Once we're finished with this, we are going to go ahead and do this one. This was another one that Simply Charlotte Mason recommends as a Abraham Lincoln living book, and this is Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, the story behind an American friendship. This one looks really good. I do worry that we're not going to have time to get fully into this. We might read a couple chapters or so, but there's that one. These were a couple of others that I got that just looked really good. Lincoln Clears a Path, Abraham Lincoln's Agricultural Legacy. We are going to make a field trip to Abraham Lincoln's boyhood home in Indiana, and it has a big agricultural focus. So I thought that this would be a good one. Again, it's got really nice pictures. I also got Finding Lincoln. This is really interesting. A little boy in, I believe it's the 50s, has to do a report on Abraham Lincoln, and he has to go to the library to get this book, and he's not allowed to get the book because it is a segregated library. So I just thought that that was really interesting. We haven't read it yet, but it looks really good, and we actually just learned about the civil rights movement. So I think that this, you know, it'll be kind of cool to like put the two together so that my kids can kind of really understand. I also got Abe Lincoln Remembers. And this is basically reliving his life, and it's kind of him thinking about his life as he's sitting at the theater. And, you know, if you know your history, you know what happens at the theater. That's where his life comes to an end. But it's kind of just going back over his life and retelling it. Obviously, I don't think we really know what he was thinking at that point, but it's kind of a cool way to write a book about it. So my son is really into comics, so I also got him this comic, and he actually told me some of the stories that we've been reading are in this book, like the one of him crossing the creek. So he's really enjoying comics right now, and so I thought this would be a nice, easy read for him. I also have the If You Grew Up with Abraham Lincoln, and we've just kind of been picking and choosing which things that he wants to read. And then he will orally narrate, or like I said, once a week he will do written narration on one of these. So he's always really interested, like I said, the books that they read. He was really interested to know that him and Abraham Lincoln were reading the same book. He was so excited about that. We also learned about their food and what they did for fun. And so we've just kind of been picking and choosing things from here. Another way that we're extending the simple studies is to do our geography unit. So we've been doing one state a week, and we are going to be doing Indiana one week and Illinois the other week. I don't have the other book up here with me. And then we also use our United States of America. Don't know much about the 50 states book. And then we have a Crafty Classroom kind of worksheet. I haven't totally got away from the worksheets, but yeah. Okay guys, so if you enjoyed this video going over Simple Studies America, I am going to be doing another one in the future on their Meadow Creatures, which is one of their science handbooks. So make sure you've hit that subscribe button, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!